What's up, my know-it-alls? It's that time again. We're talking about Picard. I'm blown away, man. And you know what? You're going to be too. So stick around, because here comes my review of Picard Season 3, Episode 3, 17 Seconds. Picard grapples with an explosive, life-altering revelation while the Titan and her crew try to outmaneuver a relentless Vadic in a lethal game of nautical cat and mouse. Meanwhile, Raffi and Worf uncover a nefarious plot from a vengeful enemy Starfleet has long since forgotten. Man, I am not going to bury any kind of lead here. I'm going to make it very clear there are spoilers coming, because I'm about to say something that is going to literally spoil the entire episode. You got 3, 2, 1. Who called the Dominion on their bingo card? This guy. Oh my goodness. I have loved it. I've had people online tell me that. I've seen theories, fan theories flying around, and sure enough, we get confirmation that there are changelings involved. So, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Let's get into it. The Vadic and her ship just is hunting them down. It's trying to catch them. Now, sensors are having a real hard time kind of seeing one another. It's very cat and mouse. It's very Wrath of Khan. So at the end of the day, she's not going to be able to ultimately catch them unless she can see them. So at one point, Riker is on the bridge with everyone as this whole thing is happening, and Shaw is like, what do y'all want to do? And they're like, look, we're in the nebula, we have to find a way to get through, and Picard's very much like, look, we can't keep running, we have to do something. Something has to happen. And so the sensors are going to get worse and worse and worse the deeper you go in. So what does Shaw order? He orders them to go in deeper. As they begin to go in deeper to what they think is a nebula. I say think because later on, the Vulcan science officer that they have, who, forgive me, I haven't caught her name yet, she's very clearly warning them about the gravity well that exists. Later on, she begins to tell them that she believes this is not a nebula as they thought. Everyone sort of, because of how you could observe it outside, but it's more of not a singularity, but an anomaly, which is just Star Trek for big fancy thing that we need to have as a plot device. So then you get this there's this really cool moment where you, like they've come to a head. They don't know what they're going to do. Okay, and then so we then flash back. We flash back to some years ago in what looks like 10 Forward. So they're reusing the 10 Forward set, and that's fine. And you see a younger Captain Riker and a younger Admiral Picard. And the de-aging is not bad. Of course, it helps that they're in a darker kind of a bar pub scenario, because at that point it's not exclusively them sort of trying to make this thing, make it seem like it's not the greatest de-aging in the world. It isn't bad, but we've all seen better. And I love the uniform, by the way. He's got the squared off DS9 style comm badge. It's a new, unique take on the gray yoke uniform. And I gotta admit, they did a good job making Patrick Stewart look like, I would say Patrick Stewart looks like early 2000s Patrick Stewart, so like X-Men Patrick Stewart. He's not doing a bad job at all. It's funny, there's this part when they're talking where he looks kind of like, it's like an improved version, and yeah. Anyways, he's celebrating the birth of his son, he being Riker. This moment serves no purpose other than to paint for us and connect the dots for us the conversations that Riker's going to have with Picard throughout the rest of the episode. Because it's going to paint for us a picture of where Riker was and where Picard is. Because essentially Picard is about to learn, relatively speaking, the same information. Which is being a parent is important. Being there, being present is important. So we come back to the present day, and for the most part, it looks as if Shaw is just utterly and totally dismayed. Like, what are we going to do? Like, what is happening? So he literally sends a couple of officers down to the aft of the ship and is like, look out a window. the entire sensor system has gone down. So that's why it's all staticky, like everything. And so he literally sends a couple officers down, which I mean, yeah, what else are you gonna do? It's like, go find a window. Y'all look out of it. Everybody report in what you see. Go. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, that's exactly what you're looking at. I have since changed my opinion about Shaw. I like him. I like Shaw a lot. I think Shaw's a good guy. I think Shaw is just trying to do his best to keep his crew alive. And he is a captain that has unfortunately been saddled with a word that I believe they're using way too much in the show. Legends. A couple of legends who are going to ultimately cause and create all kinds of trouble and havoc and whatnot. Then you get this really neat moment where LaForge, he's like, hey, while we're figuring all this stuff out, y'all rest because you don't know if you're gonna get much time else. He sends LaForge and a few others on as one of the shifts in order to get ready to take a rest. She goes to visit Seven. She goes in, she has a couple words with her, and then she does a really wonderful thing that I love. And she says, "Thank you, Commander Seven." On Buffer Time a couple weeks ago, Dell, one of the folks on our panel that we talk about, Buffer Time, forgive me, that's the weekend show that I do over with Best of Trek, Worst of Trek, and some other really great fun people in the space who we just talk about stuff. One of them is a really informed and very well individual named Dell. And so Dell has brought up the topic that essentially Seven was being dead named by Shaw. For those of you who don't play at home, dead naming is when you take a trans individual or some other person who wants to identify in a particular way, and you disrespect them by not acknowledging the name they want to be called. Whatever. At least, but I'm getting it more or less. And so that's what's been happening. Shaw has purposely been making her calling her Hansen. She wants to identify as Seven. We all know her as Seven. So LaForge acknowledging her and says, "Yes, Commander Seven." It's a wonderful moment. It's a wonderful moment that I really liked, especially because I feel like Seven deserves that. She's earned that. But yeah, everyone again is doing a really good job. So after they have their conversation, that's when we cut to medical, and that's when you see both Jack and Beverly doing their best to help people in medical. The medical doctor comes in and she's like, what do you think you're doing? She's like, put me to work, let me help. And she's like, I think it would take me longer to explain to you. Like, she's super crappy. When these two have been doing true frontier medicine, we're talking Bashir would be proud. Oh yeah. That's when Picard and Beverly have the conversation that we talked briefly, where they really go into what's happened, who Jack is, what that story is. And I find myself it's funny, this is the only storyline that I feel like feels really mashed in. And I feel like it was designed to give us an emotional connection that I don't know that we needed. Also, I don't know if you noticed, there's musical cues going on throughout the episode. The entire episode is rife with musical cues that stem from Star Trek Insurrection. I haven't heard a whole lot of musical cues from Nemesis, but I have heard a ton from Insurrection. And this episode, by the way, is no less full of them. So Picard's very angry. He's upset. Meanwhile, outside in the hallway, Riker and Jackie's pacing, and Riker's just like staring at him. And he's like, will you stop staring at me, please? And Riker's like, bro, he's like, you don't understand. The resemblance is ridiculous. Now that I'm seeing it full on, like, the resemblance is stupid. And so yeah, it's one of those moments where you stop and you sit here and you go, oh wow, it's unbelievable. And then then you cut back into the sick bay. It's a much quieter moment. So as you progress in the episode, this is when one of the officers to the rear is like, she's here, she's coming, she's getting, and she comes right behind them, the Shrike. And as she's going by, and so the Shrike attacks them, and there's back and forth. Shaw gets injured badly, very badly. As he's being carried off the bridge, he tells the computer to transfer command to Captain Riker. And then he tells Riker, he says, you get us out of this. You saved my ship. Save my ship and you save my crew. And he's taken to sick bay. This is the part where things get serious. And now Riker wants to run. This is when Picard begins and telling him, no, you need to stay and fight. You have to stay and fight, Will. All that stuff. And at the end of the day, Will comes up, he's just to get away. He's just to get distance. So they do this really cool trick where they shoot a torpedo. He then hits the torpedo with a phaser, and then poof, the shock kicks it's the coolest move they do. And I don't know why you're not doing more of this, especially if you're trying to get them out of your way. I mean, I would have just kept doing that nonstop. Just fire, boom. Cut to Raffi. Raffi wakes up aboard the La Sirena, and of course, who's with her? Worf. It's awesome. I love seeing Michael Dorn. Worf is my hero. Worf and Geordi were both my heroes. And seeing Michael Dorn as Worf, and he's doing the whole like Klingon, kind of jujitsu-y type thing, and you're just like, oh my god! If he was wearing the white outfit, I'd be right at home. And he's basically telling her, he's like, yeah, no, we're tracking some stuff. We want to see what's going on. They find the guy who who they believe stole the weapons. He's a kind of a dealer or whatever. They go looking for him. As they're looking for him, they eventually, they catch him, they bring him back. They begin to question him or interrogate him. Dude, he looks like he's got withdrawals. We're going to cut forward. And you see Jack, he's in medical when Shaw's brought in, and Shaw grabs him, and he's very sincere. He's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do this and that. And and Shaw says to him, how is she finding us? And Jack is like, and he runs down. Jack rushes down to talk to Seven. He asks Seven, what's going on? What do you think is happening here? And Seven literally, he says, you're Fenris. You're a former Fenris Ranger. You understand certain stuff. And so sure enough, she finds out there's a leak. It's a specific type of gas that's leaking. Her and Jack go to fix it. Jack gets knocked out by Lieutenant Slimyface. I'm sorry, Ensign Slimyface. Ensign Slimyface was the one that in episode 1, when Riker's doing the inspection, he looks over and the dude's like, kind of side-eyeing him, giving him a nasty look, and like, what? Anyway, as he's fighting, you see this shimmery ripple. That's the moment I was like, oh, what is that? Like, I was immediately like, there's no way this is what I think it is. So then we go back to the interrogation happening on La Sirena, and essentially, that's the first time Worf sees it, and then he calls it out. How long have you been away from the Great Link? Oh, bro. The minute he said the Great Link and I knew changelings are involved, I was like, mark that off on my Star Trek bingo, because I'm telling you. And yeah, the concern at the moment is apparently Worf was contacted by someone from the Great Link who is a man of honor. And he's talking about Odo. The late Rene Aubergenois, who's no longer with us, and at least in spirit he is. And the presence of Odo is felt, and that makes me very happy. And because you get these shades of DS9, and I'm okay with that. So, yeah. Raffi is shocked by the entire thing. Worf has to, because apparently the reason he looked like he was having withdrawals is because he had to turn back into liquid form and regenerate. So then we jump forward back to the Titan, and while they almost have made it out, but the Shrike follows them and then opens a portal. Vadic's the one who has the portal tech. There's apparently another weapon. So the portal tech is just to keep them here, and then you find out from Worf and Raffi, portal tech is literally not the end game, it's the distraction. There's a whole deeper story happening here, and I really want to know what it is. All the same while Picard and Riker begin and continue to butt heads, because Picard continues to tell him, we have to fight, Will, we have to turn around and fight. So they find out about a leak, they realize there's a changeling on board, and they are terrified. They're terrified of that fact. And so now, and just before they can do anything about it, Ensign Slimyface sets off an explosion, and they are crippled. They're crippled, and the Shrike. They try to fire some torpedoes. The Shrike fired the portal. The torpedoes come back at the Titan from behind, and it's very cartoon-like, but at the same time works. And so yeah, that's that. So yeah, so there you are. Now you know. If knowing's half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. What's the know-it-all index for this episode? I am going to give this episode a solid 8. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. Did they have time for all the Beverly and Picard stuff? I mean, yeah. This funny, I kept thinking to myself, golly, you guys are filming this really tight. Like, it's super tight. And I'm like, can we get a nice wide shot where everyone's talking and, like, it's, you know? Anyway, this, again, very exciting Star Trek, you know, and it feels like we're watching movie after movie after movie every week, and I love it. So, okay, comment below. Let me know what you guys thought. Super appreciate each and every one of you joining us. Thanks again for the growth you've shown this channel. I love each and every one of you. I can't wait to talk more about this show next week. But let's comment below. Join us on all the socials. Let's have this chat, man. I want to find out what you think. Are you surprised it was the Dominion? Or not Dominion, a faction? Because I'm sorry, when you say changelings, you're talking about the Dominion. So, all right, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.